Our scripture reading this morning is from the Acts, chapter 8, 26 through 39. Then an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Get up and go towards the south to the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a wilderness road." So he got up and went. Now there was an Ethiopian eunuch, a court official of the Candace, the queen of the Ethiopians, in charge of her entire treasury. He had come to Jerusalem to worship and was returning home. Seated in his chariot, he was reading the prophet Isaiah. Then the Spirit said to Philip, "Go over to this chariot and join it." So Philip ran up to it and heard him reading the prophet Isaiah. He asked, "Do you understand what you are reading?" He replied, "How can I understand unless someone guides me?" And he invited Philip to get in and sit beside him. Now the passage of the scripture that he was reading was this: "Like a sheep, he was led to the slaughter, and a lamb silent before its shearer. So does he not open his mouth. In his humiliation, justice was denied him. Who can describe his generation? For his life is taken away from this earth." The eunuch asked Philip, "About whom, may I ask you, does the prophet say this? About himself or about someone else?" Then Philip began to speak. And starting with the scripture, he proclaimed to him the good news about Jesus. As they were going along the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, "Look, here is water. What is to prevent me from being baptized?" He commanded the chariot to stop, and both of them, Philip and the eunuch, went down into the water, and Philip baptized him. When they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord snatched Philip away. The eunuch saw him no more, and went on his way rejoicing. God bless the hearing and understanding of his word.
Paul, thank you so much for reading today's scripture. It's only one scripture, but it's a longer one, so thank you so much. Do you recognize today's scriptures? Just a few weeks ago, I preached about the same passage, and you might wonder, did you just grab another sermon from a couple of weeks ago thinking we didn't pay attention? No. It is like watching a movie. I am sure you sometimes watch a movie twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. You always see a different angle, a different perspective. And so we do again, this time with the glasses of Open and Affirming Sunday. However, before we dive in, I'd like to address a few questions. Just the other day, someone asked me, why do we have an O&A Sunday? Isn't it enough to have the little rainbows in all the bulletins, and the rainbows and the circle on the cloth out there and on the banner and all the bulletins and publications and letterheads? And after all, our church participated in the Columbus Pride Parade, and we had a booth at the Westerville Pride Festival. Isn't this enough? The short answer is no, it's not. We need to repeat for all to hear, God is love. And we share God's love in all the rainbow colors God created. We can't proclaim this often enough, especially in a world where violence and hate seem to reign. How often do you tell your family members, I love you? Is once a year enough? Maybe you get a beautiful Valentine's or anniversary card. That should do it. Or maybe you wear a ring reminding you everything you do on your hand that you promised once a couple of years ago. Isn't that enough? Or you provide enough food in the refrigerator for your kids and have a roof over their head. They should know. When I grew up, I experienced that you should know attitude. The idea was there's food, you have a roof, you have clothes. Why should we tell you? Why do we need to repeat, I love you? Imagine my surprise when I met my friends Jan and Rother. They ended every single phone call with their family members and with anybody they know and love with, love you. Even when they called from the grocery store asking what brand of ketchup they should pick up. The closing words were, I love you. I asked Jane, why do you do that? The other person should know that you love them. Don't they already know that? You have repeated that at least 5 times during the last week. Her response was, if anything happens to my loved ones, I want my words, I love you, to be the last words they hear from me. You can never love too much. Hearing her explanation made me tear up. I wished I had heard those words more regularly, and I know others feel the same. Especially people who were told repeatedly that they're not wanted or were burning in the afterlife. Or quoting my friend Jane, you can never love enough. 5 years ago, our congregation voted to become open and affirming. Well, this vote was a final step after a lengthy process filled with conversation and discussion. Not everybody agreed. It also happened during the pandemic, which didn't make things easier. Emotions ran high. Some people left. No matter what, we made a leap of faith, and we decided we are going to vote on if we really believe that God is love and that we love everyone. I'm grateful we did. Just looking around you, we're out here. I am grateful we did. I'm thankful we said yes to including everyone, especially those who had been shunned by many churches before, just because of who they are. I apologize if anyone experienced pain, and my heart goes out to those who did, all in the name of a loving God. On our website, we publicly declare Westerville Community is an open and affirming congregation. What does it mean to be open and affirming? We officially recognize the rights and values of all persons in our community. We declare that people of all sexual orientation, gender identities, gender expressions are welcome to participate in the whole life of this church. We are open, meaning that all are welcome to come and participate fully. All means all. We are affirming. We believe that all people are created in the image of God just as they are. They do not need to be fixed or judged. And we strive to love and support you just as you are and for who you are. If you look at our website, you will find the UCC logo. Wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We want to know that wherever you are, being on the website or coming in person or finding us on the Pride Parade, we are glad that you are here, and we are not ashamed to celebrate God's love. Love, just like people, come in all different forms, and love is beautiful. People need to hear this message over and over again, wherever they find us, in person or online, and not just folks who live in our zip codes. Similar to the stranger from Ethiopia in our story, coming from a different world, a different country, a different background, shunned by their own community because of who they are. People find us online. Sometimes even people across the ocean. 2 people in our midst came from a different continent. For one of them, English is not his native language. Like the stranger in our story, also from different religious backgrounds. They were excluded from other churches not because of their actions, but because of who they are. I have permission to tell their stories. And so Matthew and Chris, if you could please stand, that we know they're talking about you. If you don't know Matthew and Chris, Matthew is the one with the dark hair, and Chris is the one with fewer hair. So thank you so much for sharing your story. One day I received an email from a person called Matthew, the one with the dark hair, who was living at that time in Berlin, Germany. I usually do not open mails from people I do not know, but something nudged me, and I'm so glad I did. Because what happened after this initial email is history. And now, here they are. And similar to our story with the eunuch, there's lots of rejoicing going on. Matthew was raised in rural Ohio in a conservative and evangelical churches, and for much of his adult life, found a spiritual home within that tradition. For many years, he battled addiction, driven in large part by a lack of acceptance and his internal conflict about his identity. He says, I was kicked out of many churches for being me. It's so healing to finally be welcomed for who I am, scars and all. Chris, originally from Poland, left the Catholic Church after watching a Billy Graham crusade. This inspired him to pursue a closer relationship with faith through the evangelical tradition. He served as a worship pastor in several churches in Warsaw, Poland, Berlin, Germany, but each time his sexual orientation was discovered, he was no longer welcomed. His last evangelical church in Berlin was Saddleback Church, where he served as the worship and music leader. Saddleback's global pastor is Rick Warren, author of The Purpose-Driven Life. In the US, he was also involved in worship ministry in North Carolina. And then he became involved in worship music with Gateway Church in Texas, where his last CD in Polish was also produced. Today, Chris works with the welcoming Protestant church in Berlin, Germany, but calls Westerville UCC his true spiritual home. He says, this is what I was looking for. I found it. Paul, a few minutes ago, read the scripture from Acts, where Peter reached out to the eunuch from Ethiopia. We have no idea about his name. We have no idea anything else, but besides the country he comes from, who he is, and that he is pretty wealthy. But like the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts 1, marginalized, curious, and seeking a sense of belonging, Matthew and Chris each traveled their desert road in search of a church that would embrace their whole selves. Matthew once told by a pastor that he would never be free from addiction because he was gay. Today, he is pursuing the same theological degree as that pastor who kicked him out. And did you know that Matthew and I will be actually representing our church and the association and the conference in a few weeks at National Synod in Kansas? Because Matthew and I are delegates, and so we are really proud. Matthew and Chris, having found healing in being fully known, fully loved, discovered here at Westerville UCC the affirmation they longed for. Just as Philip welcomed the eunuch without condition, these two men found a faith community that said, nothing is stopping you from being here, from belonging, from being whole. And the most essential reason both Matthew and Chris call our church their home was they were fully open and affirming, while still faithfully preaching the gospel. They share, we were not looking for a social club for gay men. No, We were seeking a gospel-centered community where our marriage and our faith could both be fully embraced. Westerville UCC is that place, and we are deeply grateful to call it home. When I asked Chris and Matthew, as they compared their story with the story in Acts, and the last verse in the scripture reading, when the stranger left rejoicing, I asked, what makes you rejoice? The answer was, that's easy. We can finally be authentical ourselves at church. Westerville UCC lives out the radical, welcoming message of Jesus with authenticity and grace. It's a place where we're not just tolerated, but truly seen, embraced, celebrated as whole people, faithful, married, and gay. Here the gospel is alive, preached without tinted glasses, lived through justice, and woven into a community that genuinely cares. We rejoice because WCC is not just a church, it's home. It's healing. It's hope. Thank you. We rejoice with you and for you. We rejoice with you because you are a gift, and so is everybody else. You are all a beloved child of God, and you're not alone. Or as our banner says proudly above those doors, we journey with you, wherever you are, whoever you are. Let's do it together. Amen.